Speaking to a union group in Washington, Al Sharpton warned the Tea Party to stay away from Dr. Martin Luther King's legacy.
Just this last summer, there was on the anniversary of his speech, I Have a Dream, a gathering in Washington, led by Glenn Beck and the right wing, Sarah Palin and others, talking about Dr. King and the dream. And now they're trying to have a party and claim a crown that is our crown. I don't care what they call it, Tea Party or whatever party. Don't let them steal your crown. This is our crown.
And now, the Reverend Al Sharpton. Isn't that divisive? Aren't you?
Not at all.
No? You think that's uniting? The statement was uniting?
It was defining. If I were to have something on the anniversary of Ronald Reagan's speech, people that followed Ronald Reagan have the right to say, he's got the right to do it, but that's not what Ronald Reagan represented.
Well,
I didn't say they should stay
so.
away from Dr. King. You played the tape. Nobody said that. I said that our crowd, union members, Dr. King died in Memphis fighting for union members. We fought and for a society that Dr. King gave his life for. Let's not distort that.
You don't think Sarah Palin and Glenn Beck like union workers?
I think that Sarah Palin and Glenn Beck have said very clearly what their philosophy is, which is let's go back to states' empowerment, which Dr. King was in Washington for strong national government, which they opposed. They have certainly said they don't believe in a lot of programs for people that are poor, the entire program. Dr. King's last book, Where Do We Go From Here, called for government spending there. So you can't have different facts. We can have different views,
so wait a minute.
But you can't change the facts.
So I have to, if I want to invoke Dr. King's legacy, okay, I can't do it because I disagree with him on some political...
Of course you can. Nobody said that. You played the tape what I said. What I said is don't let them steal or distort the crowd. I didn't say don't let them have it.
I don't know if anybody distorted anything, do you?
I think it is a distortion to act as though Dr. King would support a states' rights movement that did not believe in empowering government to help poor people. That's what he died in Memphis fighting for.
When Beck did his thing in August, there were no political signs allowed, not one, okay? And it was basically love your country, love your God, love your family.
Okay.
What would Dr. King object to in that?
Dr. King...
Love your country, love your family.
Nobody said that, but Dr. King also said a lot more.
Okay, but they kept that rally
and that's fine.
In that zone.
And we had our rally in the zone of what Dr. King talked about, of trying to reckon. We had blacks and whites and government and union leaders speak to talk about let's have workers' rights, let's have immigration, which is what Dr. King stood for. What's wrong with that?
I'm disagreeing with you this. Politically, you are more in tune with Dr. King's philosophy than Sarah Palin is. Okay. But spiritually, which is Dr. King's legacy is mostly spiritual, not political, all right? He rose above all of that, and he wanted all Americans to come together.
But he wanted all
Americans to come together.
He wanted them to come together for a political...
No,
that's not true.
He didn't want to come together for political
When Dr. King stood at that very speech, August 28, 1963, and said that he was there against governors whose lips are dripping with the words of interposition and nullification. He was defining there are some that are opposed to us. That is the same thing we're saying.
Because I think you're absolutely politicizing. Did Dr. King say that?
That's a statement that he made.
It's a statement, but you're taking it out of context. The statement
What was the context he made?
The context was that all Americans have equal rights.
Right.
All should have the opportunity to pursue happiness on an equal basis.
Right.
It wasn't Republicans are better than Democrats, or Democrats are better than liberals, or liberals are better than conservatives. He didn't get into that, as you well know.
We said that
it was a spiritual movement.
No. It was a spiritual movement in a political context. Just as we're saying, the tape you played, I was talking about the difference between David choosing Solomon rather than Adonai to have his crown. If you play the whole tape. Very spiritual context that I raised it. But I talked about the political context of what Dr. King stood for. He's in history about that. The mistake they make is they want to divorce Dr. King from Kingism. You can't do that.
Listen, the mistake you're making is you're putting politics above human rights.
No, what I'm putting is human rights there, and Dr. King fought human rights in a political context.
If you look at Dr. King, the body of his work, and I'm a historian, and I have, Dr. he was a socialist. He was
what?
A socialist. All right? I don't think you disagree with that. Dr. King wanted distribution of wealth.
Yeah,
wanted it.
I don't know that Dr. King would say that. Then are you saying that Glenn Beck and Sarah Palin was there saluting socialism? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying to you that
Then what are
Dr.
you saying?
King's message was a human rights message, not a political message, and there's a difference.
But are you now saying that socialism is a spiritual message?
I'm not saying that at all.
You said
I'm
Dr. King
saying
was a
that you can
socialist, so you
disagree with
confuse them.
Dr. King's political
Right.
beliefs, which he did have,
Right.
okay, but still embrace his human rights beliefs.
And
you're saying
right. And
don't appropriate
No, I
his
didn't.
crown. You're
said-
making it all politics.
No, you are misquoting. You're misquoting me. What I said
what you just
is
said.
to union members that agreed with his political message, as I did,
Yeah.
that we should not allow ourselves to be robbed of what we believe in. I didn't tell them anything.
What would have been wrong with you going in there and saying to your union crew, you know, I'm glad Sarah Palin and Glenn Beck invoked Dr. King's legacy, and I'm glad they want human rights and equal rights for everything. I think that's a positive. Whenever Dr. King's name and legacy is mentioned, that's good for the country. What would have been wrong with that?
And what would be wrong with you to say what I said? But I
Because it was
disagree.
divisive.
If I did, so I have to agree with you not to be. That's
I
nonsense.
think
It is defining, not divisive.
you have to
People
elevate
have the
Dr.
right
King.
to say we disagree with what they're saying politically, even though they have the
don't know
right
if
to
I
say
would
it.
have
That is
mentioned-
not
I
divisive.
don't
That's
know if-
defining.
You know,
So
and I
now
would
we
just-
have a country that if I say I don't agree with you, I'm being divisive.
No, if you
I don't agree with it.
evoke his legacy as your own exclusively,
No, I didn't say.
that's
Who said that it was our legacy?
It's our
exclusively?
crown. It's our
The
crown.
crown of what he fought for unions. I'm speaking to a union crowd.
Right.
He died in a AFSCME strike in Memphis, Tennessee. You asked Ms. Palin and Mr.
All
Beck
right.
whether they agree with that. And you call them a
You know what?
socialist. You say you don't agree with that. Doesn't mean you can't appreciate Dr. King.
Absolutely
but
right.
It does mean that I
Now
have the
you-
right to say
You have
I
the right
deal
to
with
say
the
whatever you
total
want.
Dr.
And I'll tell you one more thing.
All of Dr. King.
Here, Dr. King would have loved this debate tonight.
Certainly would.
Okay.
You know
I'll
why?
drop in
Because
for
you let me talk and you talk.
Oh, that's it. He liked me. Plenty more ahead as the factor moves along this evening.